Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Monday, December 8th, 2014. Here are our top stories.
Tonight, riddles surround the 36th banker death of the year. Then, the controversy at state and national parks. And some speculate the chokehold isn't what killed Eric Garner. That's next on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
But just the information I have to look at is torture, because I know how evil the globalists are.
Well, the mortgage crashes were not a mistake, they were a plan. Even before the ink dried on the bank bailouts, they were looking to extend their derivative markets in all new directions. And of course, the House Republicans have been more than happy to help them since 2008. Just last year, look at this report from Kurt Nimmo. He said the House voted to get banksters back in the derivative business. And of course, he pointed out that in October of 2013 last year, the House passed a bipartisan tweak to the Dodd-Frank bill that Congress had earlier passed as a reform after the bankers nearly crashed the financial system back in 2008. And he points out, though, of course, Dodd and Frank were both Democrats, and he points out there's another Democrat, Jim Himes, Democrat of Connecticut, has received $66,450 from Citigroup. And he's writing the legislation for him. We're seeing that yet another year passes, and they're trying to do it again, this time putting it into the December 11th resolution, trying to get a continuing funding for the government. As he pointed out this weekend, Kurt Nimmo pointed out, bankster lobbyists tried to sneak derivatives, bailout, and budget legislation. Here we go again. Kurt pointed out this weekend that Dodd-Frank codified too big to fail. It hammered small businesses. It protected bankster investors. It jacked up the prices consumers pay for bank services. It interfered with basic market functions. And it set the stage for the next economic disaster planned by the financial elite. And how are they going to do that? Well, of course, they're going to ensure additional derivatives, tie them into the FDIC. As we see from this article from Michael Krieger, Wall Street moves to put taxpayers on the hook for derivative trades. He showed the actual drafts from Citigroup that have been put forward by their puppet, Jim Himes, and showing the final bill. And you can see that they have copied it almost verbatim from the city lobbyist. Now, our interview today is with someone who was one of the first whistleblowers back in the S&L crisis of the 1980s. He's also done a lot of investigation about this most recent crime of the big banks in the 2000s. He's laid out the criminal case for tax evasion, tax fraud, security frauds, and he's traced the flow of money through to the Swiss banks and into black operations. A former military man, he's very concerned about that, as we've also seen with these recent lawsuits from a lot of military vets and their families. He's also going to offer you a plan of action, a way that you can help to expose these crimes. He's going to lay that out very thoroughly for us. Now, it also is pretty clear when you see these bankers at the epicenter of these globalist major crimes and a lot of money being moved around criminally. We've seen this year a lot of banker suicides. We're going to talk about that in the interview as well. This most recent article that came up this weekend, we now have the 36th dead banker of the year. Yes, yet another. 36 in 1 year. Very suspicious circumstances for all of these. Now, the other thing we saw this weekend was the public trashing of the reputation of Eric Garner, the man who was choked to death by the police, trashing him as being too fat. They're not criticizing him for being black, but his fault, the reason he's dead is because he was simply too fat. Point out the fat shaming of Eric Garner. This is from The Atlantic. They say Representative Peter King, and a Republican from New York, actually he's from the Staten Island area, I believe, told CNN's Wolf Blitzer that Garner would not have died during an arrest by NYPD officers had he been more physically fit. He said, you have a 350-pound person who was resisting arrest. If he had not had asthma and a heart condition and wasn't so obese, he almost definitely would not have died from this. So I guess the lesson for all of this is that we need to get into better shape so we can survive the beatings from our slave masters and their overseers. Actually, the union got into this as well, saying that they're being demonized about this. They say police say the outcry has left them feeling betrayed and demonized by everyone from the president and the mayor to throngs of protesters who scream at them on the street. And this is what the president of the police union had to say, Patrick Lynch. He said, police officers feel like they're being thrown under the bus. Well, I think that's kind of interesting because it was that same fellow, Peter Lynch, who threw the EMS people under the bus back in August. If you remember, it was very clear from the coroner that it was a case of homicide. She made it very clear that he was choked to death. It was trauma to the throat. And of course, at the time when that was reviewed, they pushed back on that. Peter Lynch, the head of the police union, said that he thought that as they looked at these throat injuries, he thought that might be consistent with the type of compression, he said, and damage to the neck and chest, consistent with life-saving techniques that EMS or emergency room technicians would do in a situation like this. It's consistent with that and not consistent with a chokehold. But when famous forensic pathologist Michael Baden took a look at this report, he said there were 10 hemorrhages on the inside of the neck, in the muscles of the neck, hemorrhages in the eye, hemorrhages in the tongue. All of those are evidence of neck compression. In other words, this guy was killed. It was a homicide due to what the police did to his neck. But of course, the head of the police union throws EMS under the bus. What was being said about EMS at the time? Well, back at the time, in August, the New York Daily News pointed out that 4 minutes into a 7-minute video clip, 4 EMTs arrived, but neither they nor the 8 cops standing around Garner as he lay on the sidewalk could be seen trying to help the unconscious man. What did they do? Did they do something that was consistent with what this police union officer says, that these kinds of interventions from EMT would have caused him to have 10 hemorrhages in his neck and his eyes? No, they had one emergency worker who checked his pulse and told the apparently lifeless man that help had arrived. As a matter of fact, their non-action was so severe that the 4 EMTs, who apparently did nothing to aid him, as they point out in the New York Daily News, had been banned from responding to any calls until the investigation was complete. So we see that a big part of the problem, a big part of the systemic problem, are the police unions. And they're willing to throw anybody under the bus, willing to blame this man's death on his obesity. Although there is a pattern of behavior from this very officer. Immediately after this happened, Staten Island Live, SILive.com, reported that the city had paid out $30,000 to settle a 2012 lawsuit against chokehold cop Daniel Pantaleo. This is the same guy who choked Eric Garner to death. They had already paid out $30,000 in a similar situation. We see a pattern of behavior with this particular cop. We see a pattern of behavior with the police unions. We see a pattern of behavior with the non-prosecutions from the district attorneys. It continues to go on and on. Now, stay with us after the break. We've got a couple of important reports. You can find out how you can opt out of Obamacare, a way to get out of the mandates that is good for libertarians as well as for Christians. And we also have a report as Peter Gruber is preparing to go before Congress and talk about how he twisted the data and lied to the American public to deceive them. We have a report about how he did the same thing and Grubered the data about abortions to try to convince people to have abortions. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Molon Lave Silver Coin, certified by the Provident Mint. This 1-ounce silver round is 0.999% fine silver, inspired by the legendary Spartan king Leonidas and his refusal to lay down arms in defiance of Emperor Xerxes. Molon Lave, that's Greek for come and take it. This is available now at INFOWARSstore.com. Act now as supplies are limited. And don't forget, free shipping and a free gift. That's INFOWARSstore.com.
For all of recorded history, civilizations around the world praised the health benefits of silver. At InfoWars Life, our mission is to bring you the highest quality, purest, cleanest, effective colloidal silver on the market today for the lowest price available. You don't have to be a doctor to know. The fall and winter months are the most dangerous time of year in North America when it comes to you and your family's health. InfoWarsLife.com is very excited to announce our biggest run yet of Silver Bullet colloidal silver, exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com. Now, InfoWarsLife.com has taken colloidal silver to the next level using a cutting-edge technique that is free of toxic artificial additives. Now more than ever, it's important to stock up on high-quality Silver Bullet from InfoWarsLife.com and to help others during Christmas by teaching them about the powerful benefits of silver. Secure your Silver Bullet today at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Now, of course, you can't make the GOP actually do anything to stop Obamacare, but you can opt out personally. We have a solution for libertarians and for Christians. Here it is.
Hey guys, Rob Dew here from INFOWARS Nightly News, and I want to talk about solutions. One of the things we talk about a lot on INFOWARS.com and in the documentaries and videos that we make here is that you are the solution. You have to be part of the solution. If you wait for others to do it, you're going to be waiting a long time. You need to stand up and become active and get involved in the game. One way to do that is by saying no, opting out, like with the TSA, or spending your dollars locally instead of at a big box chain. These are all ways that you can get involved. Well, now we have Obamacare, and this is a big medical tyranny thing. And here's just a little bit of what Alex Jones has to say about Obamacare earlier this year.
Basically, it was a blank check to do whatever they want. Share all your data, NSA the medical records, federalize it, give it to all these corporate interests, kick people off their existing plans, kick people off that had pre-existing conditions, not cover children, lower the quality of care, double, triple, quadruple prices, shut down small healthcare divisions and providers, small insurance companies and HMOs, small clinic chains that help the poor. I come from a family of physicians and healthcare management. I mean, I know about this stuff. And I had doctors on, I had researchers on. The insurance companies bragged that they wrote it. They lobbied to get it passed. The Republican leadership helped write it. And I said, this is a bipartisan screw job, and it's really going to hurt people.
So most of you watching this are going to agree that Obamacare is not a good thing. It was written by the insurance companies, and you know all the rest. But what I want to talk about are ways to get around Obamacare, especially the fees, because starting in 2015, the fees are going to get bigger. In fact, here's what it says on healthcare.gov. If you don't have coverage in 2015, you'll pay the higher of these two amounts: 2% of your yearly household income, or $325 per person for the year. The maximum penalty per family using this method is $975. So if you have a family of 4, you're going to be paying close to $1,000 in fines for 2015, and it's only going to go up. You've seen the articles on INFOWARS. We've read emails out from people of others out there who've seen their rates rise or have their plans cut. They've seen prices double. Some people are paying more for their health insurance than their mortgage on their house. But you remember what Obama said.
If you've got health care already, then you can keep your plan if you are satisfied with it.
If you like the plan you have, you can keep it.
I intend to keep this promise. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan.
If you like your plan and your doctor, you can keep them.
You'll be able to keep your health care plan.
If you like your plan, you keep your plan.
If you like your doctor, you like your plan, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan.
If you like your current insurance, you keep that insurance. Period.
So what do? Where do you go? Is there an alternative to this skyrocketing insurance where it's got super high premiums and deductibles that have been calculated never to be reached? But before we get to these solutions, let's just look at one instance here of insurance companies and their disreputable dealings. Here's what advocate Dr. Margaret Flowers had to say about the health insurance system in New York State. I think looking at our Blue Cross program here, and what they found was that about 1 out of every 5 claims was denied just randomly. Like if 5 claims come in, they just pull one out and say they're not going to pay this one. And we have evidence of this in New York from people that worked in these claim offices, that if there was a certain level area of the city, lower income area, they would deny those claims because they knew people didn't have the resources to fight back. All the more reason to get out of a system that wasn't even designed to help you in the first place. A little over a year ago, me and my wife had the same problem. I saw insurance as a scam. I was sick and tired of paying the high premiums and the deductibles that you can never reach. And then we heard from a neighbor about a program called Samaritan Ministries. It was started back in 1994 by Ted Pinninger from his home in Washington, Illinois. The group has since grown to 36,000 member households participating, and they have around $9 million available each month to meet healthcare needs. They don't consider themselves health insurance. What they call it is health sharing, and here's how it works. Health sharing is a biblical approach to paying for healthcare based on passages such as Galatians 6, verse 2, which says, "Bear one another's burdens, so fulfill the law of Christ." The law is the royal law of loving one another. So each member commits to sending a set share amount each month. These shares are sent directly through the mail from one household to another member with needs. Samaritan Ministries uses a database that randomly matches shares to needs so that sharing is coordinated and that shares go to the appropriate members with the needs.